I'm just hoping the cat doesn't walk across the screen.
All right, I see our broadcast is live, so I'm going to go ahead and welcome everybody. I am Professor Paige Roseman, and we are so grateful that you have joined us here today for another Promise Day event. This October is the National Awareness Month for Dating and Domestic Violence. I'm going to introduce briefly our speaker here in a moment, but just as you get started, be on the lookout in the chats. You'll be able to comment. You can already see that there's a note there from our Eagle Stream team and Carlos, tech guru behind the scene, letting us all know and expressing gratitude. Thank you for joining us. So there's going to be a link to a quick 5-question survey shared. So as soon as you see that link, if you'll go ahead and fill that survey out, let us know what you think about green, yellow, or red flags, and evaluate kind of each situation as it comes. You will have the opportunity to interact in the comments section as well. Okay, and there it is. I see it. Awesome. So that's a link to a forms survey. All right. Welcome again to Promise Day. So today we have Sharice Potts, Community Awareness Coordinator at Interact. Sharice has been with us for the past several years, just an incredible leader and advocate in this space. She facilitates domestic and sexual violence presentations across the community in so many different education and faith spaces as well. She coordinates events for staff and volunteers and is deeply passionate about Interact's work and broadening its outreach. Sharice received her BA in Criminology and Masters of Public Admin from John Jay College of Criminal Justice. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over for now to Sharice. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing with us.
Thank you, Paige and Claire. Always a pleasure to come in and work with them. They are awesome and also as passionate about this subject as I am. And I'm honored to be able to work with them each year on this subject. So as Paige said, there should be a link to a survey because that's where this quick little activity comes in that survey. So hopefully you all got a chance to fill it out. And as you can see, this is what we call our flags activity. And we just like to evaluate how much you are able to recognize unhealthy or abusive relationships. So just a little fun way to get our juices flowing. So as you can see from the instructions and even from your survey, you just kind of look at the scenario and decide whether or not it's a green flag. And green, is like go, like the stoplight, go. It looks healthy and we're just going to proceed on. And then that yellow flag is really something don't seem too right. Something, it's kind of caution, that yellow sign, that yellow flashing light. Maybe we should slow down and kind of get to know each other better. And then you have that red flag. That's a dead stop. No, do not proceed. Don't go any further. This is an abusive relationship, or this is a very unhealthy relationship, and we should not go any further. Okay, so we'll just go to the next slide and hopefully we have some results in so we can kind of talk through it. So scenario 1, you and your partner feel like y'all can share things with each other, but you also feel like you can keep some things private. So what do y'all think? Green flag, yellow flag? Okay, so we don't have any results yet. So just in the interest of time, I'll give away one of the answers, but this is what we consider a green flag. This is a healthy relationship. When you are in a relationship, you have the options to share as much or as little as you would like in certain areas. You do have the right to keep some things private to yourself, some experiences and things that you might have had. And it's okay to be able to hold some of that for yourself. So in this one, we would consider that a healthy relationship. So let's go on to the next one. And if we don't get any results, we still can give y'all the answers. And if y'all have any comments or questions, y'all can throw them in the chat as well. So scenario 2, your partner randomly stops by your job or home dorm, even though you told them it makes you uncomfortable. Okay. I'm sorry, Paige, I did see you see I have 2 red flags and 1 yellow. Was that for scenario 1 or scenario 2? For scenario 2. Okay, great. 2 red flags and 1 yellow. Yeah, you are both are absolutely right, because I will tell y'all the little caveat to the game is that yellow flags usually always turn into a red flag, but we would consider this one definitely a yellow flag, because remember, you have already had this conversation with them and they continue to do it. So it really it's something that will make you kind of slow down, like, if this person, will not listen or stop and continue to cross my boundaries, that's where it kind of lead into that red flag. So y'all both were right. Thanks. Okay, scenario 3. Next slide. I'm sorry, Carlos. You share your hopes and dreams with your partner and they appreciate your passion and encourage you to do things you love. Absolutely right. That's green. That is healthy. That's what we want to see in our relationships. We definitely want to see each other supporting each other's hopes and dreams. So y'all on it. Yes, 100% green. Thank y'all for that. Next slide. You and your partner agreed to take the night off from texting or calling each other while out with your friends, but your partner calls and texts you multiple times to say they miss you. Looks like we got a little mixed bag for scenario 4. Okay. If anybody want to take a stab at it and let me know why you chose whatever you chose, feel free before I tell you what we consider this to be. And if you get any comments or anything, Paige, you could feel free to stop me. But I will tell you all that this is definitely a yellow flag, because look at this scenario. They said y'all agreed to take the night off. And although some may say, well, they just called to tell me they miss me. No, that is a cover-up. And if you notice also, it says multiple times. So if you're out with your friends, you can't really enjoy that time with your friends because you're answering texts or looking at texts or phone calls or answering calls. So they are really interrupting your time with your friends. So it really is a yellow flag. It's letting you know that potentially this person doesn't understand or care about your boundaries. And as I said to you before, yellow flag always usually go into a red flag. And these are some of the control tactics that people and abusers use in unhealthy relationships. So thank y'all for that. Next slide. Last scenario, your partner says that you're not really committed to the relationship because they want to go to a pre-planned girls or guys trip instead of spending time with them. And let's see. Y'all are on it. Great job. I got 60% yellow and 40% red, as I said. In all of these scenarios, we would consider, yes, this yellow flag. Same thing with the same mindset is that yellow usually always turn into red. But yeah, it's definitely a yellow flag because remember, this was a trip that was planned prior to the relationship. And most abusers have a problem and try to interrupt that person from spending time with anyone else outside of them. And they may use guilt or manipulation to make sure that that happens. So, y'all are really, really on the ball with that. And I love to see that y'all able to recognize some of these red flags. Okay, Paige asks in the chat, what are some of the red flags to me? Cheating, abusive, dishonesty, obsessive user of money. Well, I tell you, in this, we're going to go over some of those red flags. So we'll talk about that in just a bit. Next slide. Next slide. She already introduced who I am. So as Paige told you, I'm from the organization called Interact, and Interact is Wake County's only comprehensive service provider for victims of domestic and sexual violence. We are located in Raleigh on Oberlin Road, just a couple of blocks from the village, Cameron Village. So just a quick brief overview of the services that we provide. I won't go through all of them, but just highlighting our 24-hour crisis lines is in English and in Spanish. And we also utilize a national language line. So if somebody speaks a language outside of those two, we can have an interpreter on the line. So since COVID, our crisis line has become our main vein. So it's I always tell people that our crisis lines, yes, is for survivors and victims, but they're also for yourselves, friends, family, concerned citizens. If you see someone that may be in an abusive relationship and you want to help or you want to talk to them, but you don't know what to say, you can call our crisis lines and our crisis counselors can walk you through that. There's also in-depth safety planning for people that want to get out. And then, as you can see, the other thing highlighted is our e-filing. And what that is, that's electronic filing for domestic violence protective orders. So if somebody needed a protective order or a sexual assault non-contact protective order, they would call our crisis lines and our crisis counselors will help them with that paperwork. And that's also where our court advocacy come in at, because we have a court navigator at the courthouse. Doesn't offer legal advice, but they let you know the layout of the courthouse and what happens at the trial. But we do have an in-house partnership with legal aid, so we are able to refer our clients to legal aid. And then lastly, I want to, and we do have an emergency shelter as well, but the shelter is for women and children only. And then I want to also highlight our Solace Center. Remember, I said to you that we are a dual agency. So our Solace Center is one of North Carolina's only two sexual assault forensics examinations in them. Basically, that is an alternative to the emergency room. If someone was sexually assaulted, they'll be able to come to the Solace Center, which is located in our building. And we have a partnership with all the local hospitals. So we have forensic nurses that are on call. And we also have what we call SARAs, sexual assault response advocates, that will be there to provide that emotional support as that kit is being done. So those are just some of our services that we have. And at the end, I'll have our contact information. So if you want more information on Interact, you can feel free to check out our website. So that's just a brief overview of what we offer. And then now let's get into what we came to talk about. Next slide. What is dating violence? As he said, October is dating/domestic violence. And they're basically the same thing. One more deals with long-term marriage relationships and the dating a little before that, but it's all the same. And as you can see from this definition, it's a pattern of destructive behaviors. And it's really about one person wanting to dominate over the other. It's not about anger. It's not about somebody losing control. Domestic and dating violence is a choice. Um, and it really affects everyone. It goes past any type of boundary, whether it's racial, economical, religion. It doesn't matter. It affects. It can affect anyone. Okay. And as I said, it's all about power and control. And I always give the example, if we all was together in a room and I got really angry and I decided to throw chairs or tables or whatever, anyone that's in the room can get hit with that chair or that table. And so anyone could be affected. But when it comes to dating violence, all of that destructive behaviors are targeted toward the partner. It's targeted toward the person that they're in a relationship with. And this is usually why a lot of those behaviors are secret. Most people don't realize that that person is in a abusive relationship, and when it is exposed, they're like, "Wow, I never would have guessed that person was so nice, or they were so quiet, they were so charismatic," and that's because all of the behavior that all of that destructive and abusive behavior is targeted toward their partner. Okay. And that's why we say it's all about power and control. And if you are able to keep that behavior and only target it toward one person, then it's a choice. It's not about an anger issue, it's a choice. Next slide. So just a few statistics on how prevalent this is, and that's why we talk about this all the time, and we have this month dedicated to it. So 1 out of 4 women, 1 out of 7 men are affected by domestic and violence. There's about 20 people per minute. So while we're on here, there will be millions of people that will be affected by their partner. About 10 million men and women, and just our population, the most vulnerable population is you all, that 18 to 24, that college age. 18 to 24 is the most vulnerable, and we see the highest statistics with among your age group. And this is why we're talking about this. And as you can see, that's 72% in murder suicides. And here in North Carolina, just those are national numbers, but in North Carolina alone, with the last census that we did, it was about 10 million people in the state of North Carolina, and 43.9% of the women are being affected by domestic violence, and 19.3% of the men. And you see at the top where I said that 72% of murder suicides, in 2021, we ended, and this is North Carolina numbers, in the state of North Carolina, there were 63 domestic violence related homicides. As of this year, from January 1st to October 6th of 2022, there has been 36 domestic violence related homicides. So it's a serious problem, and it's affecting a lot of us. And as I said to y'all in that vulnerable age group. So as you see, 43% of dating college women report that they have experienced violence at the hand of their partner. Okay, so it's happening, and it's happening. And most of us know someone that's in these abusive relationships. And so we got to continue to use our voice to really bring a stop to this type of violence. Next slide. So as I said to y'all before, that dating violence, domestic violence, it affects everyone. And a lot of times when we think about it, we only think about the physical aspect of it. So as you can see from, and I hope y'all, this is a good picture for y'all, but this is what we call our pyramid of abuse, because there are several types of abuse within these relationships. And as you can see, the very basis of it is isolation. That's the very foundation. That's what holds up this thing, in this isolation. And when you think about isolation, I always tell people, don't think that it just happens, you meet the person and then you're isolated from your family and friends. No, it doesn't happen that way. It's very gradual. It's a gradual, thing that happened, and it seemed very innocent. And we know that when you are in new relationships, yeah, you tend to spend more time with the person. But what happens is that person begin to suggest that y'all spend all of your time together. It's like, oh, well, that person doesn't really like me, or, your friends are jealous of our relationship. I really just enjoy spending time with you. You are my soulmate. And then it's like you're spending time willingly, but then after a while, it becomes more of a manipulation. It's like, oh, well, you shouldn't go over there because them people really don't have your best interests at heart, or they will make plans knowing that you had prior plans with your friends, and they will make plans and really guilt you into choosing them over your friends or your family. And what happens is that continues and until the point where they really start to dictate and say, well, you can't go over there, you can't go and talk to that person. And really they're just encouraging and manipulating that person from coming out of their support system, from not being around their support system. So it happens gradually, and before you know it, that person hasn't seen their family or their friends for weeks, for months, and they're only with that person. And then once that happens, you start to see that emotional and psychological abuse. And there's several things that go into that. That gaslighting, and really, I'm pretty sure y'all all have heard that term, and it's the basis of gaslighting is really getting that person not to believe in their own sanity, not to trust their ability to make good decisions, right and wrong, or really just accurate decisions. They have this person constantly telling them that they said things or did things that they didn't say or do, or that what is happening to them, the verbal abuse that they're doing it's not happening, that way. So, and then you also have that stonewalling, and stonewalling is really about keeping that person in limbo about the state of the relationship. So they will never they will tell them that they are the reason for the problems that they're having in the relationship, but they won't tell them how or how they can fix it. And anytime they try to have the victim would try to have conversations with them about the relationship, that person will stonewall. They will say, no, I can't talk about this right now, or I really can't get into it. I can't, talk about. So the person is always in limbo. They don't really understand why the relationship is not working the way that it's supposed to, or why that person says is, that they are the problem, but they don't know what they do or how to fix it. And it really creates some emotional and psychological, type of anxiety, or, wanting to fix things, but don't really know how or what. And remember, they're isolated, so you don't have your support system around you to kind of, help you evaluate what's really happening, or, what's being said to you is correct. So you have someone that's isolated, they've been emotionally and psychologically abused, and then you add in that verbal abuse, and that verbal abuse even goes to social media. So it goes to excessive texting, emailing, phone calls, and they will use whatever derogatory term they can, maybe even use other intimate relation information that you share with them and throw it back in your face. They will post pictures or scenarios about you, or make really nasty comments about the person via social media. So any way that they can use to communicate those put downs or those derogatory terms, they will do that. And then there's that sexual abuse, and the sexual abuse goes in several different ways. If the person is on contraceptives, they will either destroy the contraceptives, or they will prevent them, like they did with the isolation, from going to their doctor's appointments, maybe rescheduling or canceling appointments, or scheduling events or times to be together when they know that they have to go to the doctor. And the problem with that is that what happens during pregnancy within that was unplanned or unwanted within abusive relationship, it usually causes the abuse to escalate because the abuser feel like the person trapped them, or the stress of money and all of these other things. And the what we found that unwanted or unplanned pregnancies usually makes the violence escalate. And then under the sexual, this is where you rape, pornography, making the person perform and do things that they're not comfortable with, maybe even inviting others into the bedroom, forced intercourse or really hurtful. So it's an array of things that can happen under this umbrella. And within domestic violence, if they have children together, sometimes we have seen the abusive partners take out their sexual desires on the children if the parent does not acquiesce. So there's a few things that's happening under that sexual thing, and then we also have the physical. And we know a lot, punching, slapping. We are in a gun state. This is when a lot of firearms, and as we talked about, those domestic violence related homicides, erratic driving, pushing people out of cars. So anything that will bring any physical harm. That's what they use. Next slide. And then these two couldn't fit on my pyramid, but it's these other two forms that we see quite a bit, but we don't really talk about them. And in 99% of the cases that we look at, financial is a part of that. And that looks like the person may work, but they are given an allowance, or they are the abuser monitors what they buy. Sometimes they will deposit the money in an account and restrict access to the person on that account, or don't give them access to that account. We had some clients or some people that didn't know where they banked at because the partner had access to all of the funds and they didn't, or getting that person fired, so forbidding them from working, or telling them how many hours they can work, or calling, or showing up at the job and getting them fired, hiding or stealing money from maybe financial aid checks or other financial support. We've seen Social Security checks taken, or even opening up credit cards and maxing them out without that person's permission. If they live in a home together, maybe refinancing the home, or taking out a second mortgage without their permission. Not paying car notes, so the car get repossessed, so the person doesn't have transportation. So all of that, and making them spend money that they don't have. So somebody's dating, every time they might plan this elaborate date, but at the end of the day, the person that's being abused is the one that's paying for everything, and so now they don't have money for their essentials, and the person who's doing the abusing would refuse to give them money. So we see a lot of that financial abuse. And then there's spiritual abuse. And this is more so, how it sounds. If that person has any type of faith, they will use that against them. Any type of sacred text, whether that's the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, or any other text, they will use that against them and try to put fear in them, to stay in the relationship, or try to justify their behavior, and even limit the way that the person may worship, whether that's through their, meditation, or attending services, or even their dress. They will try to limit their ability to worship the way that they want to. So domestic and dating violence, it affects every aspect. It can affect every aspect of that person's life. So this is important to know, because oftentimes the person in the abusive relationship or the friends don't think that they are in an abusive relationship if they're not being hit. So someone may not be a hit, but they may be experiencing these other forms of abuse. So it's really, really important to know that. Next slide, please. And y'all feel free to ask any questions or to chime in if y'all have any comments. Um, I can't see the chat, but Paige can. So if y'all do have any questions or comments, feel free to chime in. I love a kind of a conversation um, format. Too bad I can't see you all, but I love to have conversation as we are going through these slides. So these are I just thought I'll put together some of this, some of the effects that dating violence have, domestic violence have on the person, because we hear about it and we talk about it, but I really want y'all to see the effects that it has. And you're talking about you all in college, so you're thinking about your dreams, you're thinking about your goals, and a lot of times these abusive relationships, it causes um, a lot of people to abandon those goals and those dreams, and they begin to now lose confidence in themselves. They're a lot more depressed, feeling anxious and fearful, don't have a zeal for life anymore, really don't care what happens, because their mind is so consumed in this relationship, and it's just constant darkness in this relationship. And so that really becomes an issue. And definitely you see to suffer serious injuries, even death, with the physical aspect. There's a lot of shame and guilt if someone identifies as another identity within relationships, abusive relationships within the LGBTQ IA community. That's one of the biggest things that a lot of abusers use, just that shaming around identity, or always threatening to out them if they're not out to their family and friends or their support system. That is something that they always use as a means of manipulation, and as a means of causing that anxiety and that fear. And as I talked to y'all before about the sexually transmitted infections, under the sexual abuse, because a lot of times the people that are abused refuse to practice safe sex, and so that is something that usually happens within that relationship, especially if they are with other people. They will bring those things to the person that they are abusing. And, a decline, you may see a decline in the well-being, no longer care about, like hygiene or how they dress, how they smell, because they just, so depressed and feeling a sense of hopelessness. And not being able to participate in school activities the way that they want to because of the demand of that relationship, and maybe increase, and we see this a lot, increase in drugs and alcohol, and sometimes the abusers even use drugs and alcohol as a means to control the person. So maybe prior to the relationship, that person didn't do drugs or drink alcohol, but this is something that the person that abused they introduced to them. So these are definitely some of the effects that we see quite a bit with those that are experiencing abuse in their relationship. And thank you. So Natalie asks, how do you get out of an abusive relationship when the abuser threatens to call the police if you tell anyone? That is a really long answer. And because when we talked about, remember I told y'all on our crisis lines, we do in-depth safety planning. That would be something that we would discuss among the safety plan, because getting out of an abusive relationship is a really dangerous time. So a lot of times when they do want to leave, sometimes calling the police can be a great thing. And then sometimes it could really escalate out of control. So Natalie, that's really a question of really understanding the other dynamics and what is happening in the relationship, because they can call the police, but it just depends on the situation. It can be almost um, life threatening to do that, or it could be a positive thing. So, when it comes to getting out of a relationship, that safety plan must be in place. And I would say that because when a person is trying to get out of a relationship, they are 75% more likely to be severely injured or killed. So, it just depends on the situation, and that's why we need to do safety planning before um, that happens, or law enforcement is introduced. So it's really a case by case situation when or if they need to get involved with that. So I hope, Natalie, that wasn't a, just a yes or no, this is what you should do kind of question. So I hope that answered a little bit. Next slide. And keep pouring in your questions or comments if y'all have any. And these are some of the signs of dating violence, because if you yourself is not in a relation in a bad relationship, you know someone. You just don't know that you know them, because as I told y'all before, y'all one of the most vulnerable populations. And if we really just kind of look at the national numbers, 1 in 4 women is really, and 1 in 7 men, it's really hard statistically for us not to know anyone. We go to school with them, we go to church with them, we at the grocery store with them, at the gym, at the club, wherever we go, there is someone and we know someone. So these are some of the signs. So, as a friend, as a support system, these are some of the things that you may begin to see, and then that, may bring the question to you, to ask, if it's anything you can do to help, or what may be going on in their life. Because you see, and thinking about school, increased absenteeism, they no longer, coming to class or doing well in school, missing assignments, not really knowing what's going on. And as I told you before, just changes in their behavior, also in their hygiene, and the way, they used to take care of themselves, maybe not so much anymore. Definitely drop in their self-confidence, or even hearing the negative self-talk. Before, they seemed like a really outgoing, confident person, and now they're really talking about how stupid they are and how they can't do anything right, and they wish they was like this person, they wish they could be better. And really, a lot of it oftentimes is them repeating what the person that is abusing them is doing. So you may see just a change also in their demeanor. They could become very quiet or withdrawn. They no longer involved in any activities anymore, or they promise they're coming and they never show up, or they can really just, like I said to you before, really begin to escalate in the drug and alcohol. Now they are partying and drinking and doing drugs excessively now, and not really caring about anything else. And little contact with any type of outside groups other than that person. So really isolated from any social activities, any clubs. They're, kind of dropping out of clubs, no longer being a part of any of those sports, things that they may have loved before, and now they are no longer a part of that, and not talking to you if you are a friend. No longer really hearing from them, or you may text them or call them and you don't hear back from them for days, or don't hear back from them at all. And all of their life is consumed with that person. And when they're not with them, they're constantly texting and answering texts from them, or calls, or really feeling anxious about being away from them. And just their main concentration is getting back to that person. So these are definitely things that you want to look out for as a friend, as a support. So I have another question in the chat. How can you tell the difference between tough love and mental abuse. Hannah, I'm not sure what tough love is, and um, I'm just going to take a stab at it. You mean like somebody telling you the truth um, about, you were right or wrong, or maybe that wasn't a good decision, and they're telling you the truth about it. Um, versus mental abuse. Well, any type of abuse is kind of looking at the underlying thing. And with any type of abuse, it's to manipulate that person, is to dominate that person. So if you're talking about like that psychological abuse, it's really about tearing the person down. Like you said, with the gaslighting, making them believe that they are, they don't make good decisions, and they can't make good decisions without the partner, without that partner. Um, so versus someone telling you the truth, if that's what you mean, and if it's not, please feel free to clarify. Um, so tough love, if that's what you're, considering someone, basically, that's healthy. Someone be able to help you evaluate that. Yeah, maybe you didn't handle that situation well, or maybe you should have made a better decision. We all need that, and that's why. That's where that isolation part of abuse comes in at, because we all need that support system to be around us to help us evaluate, or to bring a different perspective to certain things. So in a healthy relationship, yeah, that tough love would be very, very important, and that is healthy, because none of us ever get it right all the time. And so it is great to have that support system there, to tell us, or give us that tough love, but also there to support us. But in that mental abuse, there's no one there but the abuser, and that is the one that is telling you that that person is always wrong. Nothing they do is right. They can't do it, and all of that. So it's always about tearing them down. So I hope that answered your question. Because I wasn't sure what tough love is, but really looking at the underlying reasons for that and the outcome. Any type of abuse, it will be a terrible outcome from for the person that's being abused. So, next slide. And so a question came up before about these red flags. And red flags, for anyone that don't know, because red flags is basically behaviors that you may encounter from someone that is potentially an abuser, or someone that will abuse. So these are just some things to keep in mind that we like to point out for those that are dating, or those that are in a relationship, and looking toward making it, a serious relationship, even to the point of a long-term partner or marriage. These are some of the things that we want you to think about. And if you see these behaviors to what we did in that game, we want to stop. Because one of the things that I always like to tell people and to let them know, and you've seen the arrow go up on that pyramid, is that abuse never de-escalate. It only increases. Abuse always increases. So if you seeing some of these signs, you really should stop. You can't, because it is a choice. You're not going to be able to change the person, love them through it, and all of the things that people think, because it's an inward choice that the person has to make. Okay. And so these are just some of the things to let you know whether or not you're going in the wrong direction when it comes to relationships. So that possessiveness or controlling behavior. And when we're talking about controlling behavior, we're not talking about somebody that's just really giving advice, like maybe you shouldn't go over there because, it's, it's not safe over there. No, we're talking about somebody that don't want you to go over there because you may find somebody else, or you may talk to someone else. They want to control what you spend, where you go, who you talk to, what you wear, when you wear it, when you go there. So they want to control. And as we talked about and went through all those types of abuse, they want to control every aspect of that person's life. And that's one thing about that controlling behavior. It's gradual, and it seems like it's just the person caring, but what it really is the person wanting to control every aspect of that person's life. Checking your phone, checking your email, have your passwords for your social media. And that's just, they like use that term, oh, they just stalking you. No, they are, but also they're trying to control your life, and they want to use those means to know everything that is happening in your life. And remember, all of that is without your permission. It's without your permission, and that's why it's controlling, because it's not something that you decided. It was something that they decided to for you to take on. Explosive outbursts, tempers, mood swings. And I really should put this near the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And that is really talking to those mood swings. If we're having a good time, and then I say one thing, and then that person just switch, and now they are really mean, and or it's an argument, and they just switch, and it happens so often and so quickly that oftentimes people think that they may have a mental illness or something, because they go from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. So that is definitely a tall tale sign. And then what I like to highlight is that past battering. I always encourage people to listen when you are dating someone and y'all getting to know each other. Listen to the stories. If someone that they dated was always the problem in the relationship, if they were always wrong, everything that they said was bad, there was no good times in the relationship, that is a tall tale sign that that person may be an abuser, because it's always someone else's fault. If they can tell you a story and justify why they hit the person, or justify why they left the person on the side of the road at late at night and made them walk 5 miles by themselves, if they can justify why they emptied the account and left town, that's a problem. That's a problem. So listen to the stories. Listen to what they tell you, because sometimes those red lights are flashing, but we just don't know what we're listening to. Listen to the family and friends that make comments, or sometimes flat out tell you that how they abuse their past partners. Listen. Never believe that if they have abused their last partner, that they won't do it to you, because they're going to make it seem like it was always the partner's fault. And so therefore they were justified in their reaction. No, they are never justified to abuse anyone. And I will bet my everything on it that if they abuse their last partner, they will abuse you. And this also, as I said to you before, when it comes to the LGBTQIA community, threatening to out you is one of the biggest forms of control and manipulation. So if you're dating someone and y'all kind of get into an argument and they threaten to out you, that's a red flag. That's a red flag, because if they did it now, throughout the relationship, they will use that as a means to control you. They will. And then we think that sometimes, jealousy and this person saying they can't live without you is great. But if someone threatens to harm their self if you leave them, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. Because we've talked about that 72% of murder homicides. That's usually the case when someone don't want to give up that power and control. Because remember, we talked about all of this is about power and control. Then they will willingly hurt themselves, you, your family and friends, pets and children, in order to keep that control. So take a good look at this list, and really keep them in mind as you are in the dating world, as getting into these relationships. And if you see these red flags, stop. Next slide. So I decided to add this in there because we talk a lot about, the violence and the abuse and bad relationships, but oftentimes we never really talk about what healthy relationships are. So these are some of the things that we seen, and we did I think about two scenarios that were healthy. They were green. These are the things that we do want to see. We do want to see in relationships. And one of the biggest things is boundaries. Because remember, we just talked about all of the ways that a person who abuse cross boundaries. They don't care about boundaries. You tell them, don't stop by my dorm because it makes me uncomfortable. They do it anyway. So they don't respect boundaries. But in a healthy relationship, there should be boundaries, and the person should respect the boundaries. So, spending time with your family, they're not calling, they're not texting all day, they're not making you feel, guilty because you're spending time with people outside of them. They will encourage it, and they themselves will spend time with their family and friends outside of you. Um, and having time alone, and sometimes even your alone time, respecting that alone time, and for you to be able to do what you need to do. You need to study, you need to work, you need to do the different things for yourself, and really expecting that time. Also, you in a safe environment to share those sexual preferences with that person without feeling fearful that they will not respect them, or you'll be forced, or even feel that the person will no longer want to be with you based on what y'all agree on or don't agree on. So those are just some different boundaries, and being having boundaries where they don't have to control your or have your passwords to social media or any other passwords, that they don't secretly gain your passwords or anything like that. They respect your privacy and you respect theirs. Not having to check in. And this is really talking about that controlling behavior, to say, like, you have to every which way. Okay, I walk down the block. Now I'm at school. I'm at work. I'm at this. I'm at, constantly checking in as you would in an abusive relationship. So, and then there's also equality. In an abusive relationship, the one person is making all of these decisions, regardless of the likes or dislikes or the preferences of the other person. But in a healthy relationship, there's equality. We make decisions together. We compromise. We talk about it. There's a conversation. It's not, we're going to do this and that's it. No. And the person's opinion or their preferences is valued. And that is important in a healthy relationship. Next slide. Communication, big, right? We were just talking about there's a conversation. We talk about everything. The person is not attacking a person because of how they feel. They feel safe to be able to have differences of opinions, or even voice their opinion at all. And it's okay. The person doesn't accuse them of being unfaithful or disloyal, or put them down. So communication in any relationship, whether that's dating, family, whatever, that is huge. We must have great communication in order for that relationship to flourish. So in healthy relationship, there is communication. And self-esteem. And if you're in a healthy relationship, it should boost your self-esteem. It should make you happy. You feel confident. You feel safe. You feel like you can, share your dreams and your hopes, and, get great advice when it comes to your future, in a healthy, because in a abusive relationship, that self-esteem is torn down through all of the types of abuse that the person experienced, they no longer have that zeal for life. And we talked about that depression. So in a healthy relationship, it's just the opposite. You feel a sense of self-worth. You have a zeal for life. Your hopes and dreams are valued, and you value the other person. And then lastly, there's safety in that. And in an abusive relationship, there's no safety because that person has crossed all bounds and will continue to cross all bounds. And physically, emotionally, and psychologically, they tear down a person. But in a healthy relationship, you are safe. You have a safe place where you can express and talk about, and your feelings and your experiences are valued. And taken into consideration. So those are just some of the key points in a healthy relationship, that if you're not experiencing these things in your relationship, then it really goes back to that red flags. Really evaluate and if you should continue on in that relationship. Next slide, and I think I am done. So these some contact information for Interact, and then some additional information. Loveisrespect.org is a great website. Teen DVmonth.org is also a great website. So those are some additional resources that you can use to really think about where you are in your relationships, or even your friends, or even needing resources if these relationships are already in an unhealthy aspect, and maybe that person or yourself is thinking about getting out. These are some resources for you. So I am done, and thank y'all so much for your attention. And Paige, just let me know if you have any comments or questions, anything that y'all are concerned about. Please feel free to chime in. Thank y'all so much for your attention.
Thank you, Sharice. We always learn so much when Sharice Potts has joined us. She really is an amazing person because not only does she have the knowledge that we don't have, but she has the heart. And you have to realize the population she's working with. She's not working with people who come in neat and everything's controlled and in a folder. She is working with people who are coming in at the ultimate crisis in their lives and helping them to keep going. So we applaud you because that's, we think of heroes as people with capes, and I know you're very humble about it, but you really are a hero in the community, and we are so grateful for you sharing with us. And I encourage students to consider reaching out either to Sharice Potts and Interact, or to us, and then we can connect you. We also have the Wellness Center on campus. These events, the reason we push them as instructors is because it may not be you right now. It may be you down the road, or it might be a friend. Sometimes worry over a friend is enough to derail our success. And we're in this community together, and we need to work together. So personally, 1,000 thank yous for sharing your time with us. I also wanted to thank Carlos. Dr. Carlos McCormick has been running the live stream for this event and the last one. And it's so important to be able to reach people no matter what campus they're on. So thank you for that. Thank you to Student Activities, because they always co-sponsor, as well as our leadership, who've been so supportive. We would like to ask you, students, before you go today, a couple of things. Number one, maybe take a screenshot of this info so that you have it if a friend needs it. We also ask you to consider filling out, we've got a survey that Eagle Stream has just put in near the end. And one reason it's so important is it tells us what to plan for next spring. Interact has been with us the last 5 years. So that's a lot of time putting up with me, right? And we are so grateful, because unfortunately, sexual assault, dating violence, and domestic violence are an issue for students. Interact in particular has been an amazing resource for students who would have flunked out or had to give up on life because of this. And if we call and say, here's what's going on with a student, they are right there to cover it. And so you can't ask for more than that. But please fill out the survey, because that helps us plan for what you need. Let us know if you want to get involved. And Paige, is there anything else? I think I've got everything.
I think you covered all of it. Thank you so much. I see some thank yous coming across in the live chat as well. I really appreciated all the folks who have just contributed and shared thoughtful questions. And Sharice, we're really grateful to work and partner with you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
always, always. Y'all wonderful.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day and a safe rest of your week. Bye. Thanks again for joining us.